That being said, let's get to reading, man. Chapter 1230. Oh, wait, we forgot intros. All right, we're going to keep a very low-leveled intro so our puppy can sleep just a little bit longer. We're going to let Ellie rest just a little bit, and I'm trying to spoil her and kind of like hug her. Just a little bit. Music change in 3839 IDK if you ever reach them in 1 hour. Yeah, we'll get there in 1 hour. Yeah, we'll do a short stream with a potentially second stream, just like yesterday. We did like a 1 hour, just how last night we did another 1 hour stream at the very, very end. We might be able to do that. I think we'll be able to squeeze it in, but we'll see. If the stars are in alignment, we will do a second 1 hour stream today, and we'll be good. All right, but chapter 1236 is called Linkage. Let's see how long we can read with her like this. Chapter 1300. Nope, she wants to go down. Ellie, I don't want you to fall. Chapter 1300. No, 200. 236 because the fight is not over. Linkage. And my dog wants to go out. Let me let her out. Quick random cut. All right, chapter 1236 is called Linkage. Oh, my voice. That's weird. And the eyes of the Shaman King Clairman, a bright silver moon rose. Oh shit, we ended up on our moon. Oh, I forgot to set the moon as our background. Oh shit, I forgot. I can fix that after. In the eyes of the Shaman King Clairman, a bright silver moon rose, quickly filling his irises. This was completely different from the normal crimson moon. It also wasn't the blood moon that occasionally appeared. It was similar to the abnormal state of the moon from not too long ago. Oh shit, yeah. But there were also certain differences. It illuminated Clairman's eyes and body, causing him to instantly lose contact with the crimson moon. This also meant that before things went back to normal, Clairman could no longer... Oh, he can't even use it. He can no longer attempt a moonlight transformation. Oh, goodbye. You know what's funny, Moon? We're hearing about our moon, and your name is Moon. You take care, man. Now, I can't be the ribome is Morbimus? I thought I said Morpheus. He can no longer attempt a moonlight transformation, nor could he teleport within the range of the crimson moonlight's illumination. Suddenly, a word appeared in the mind of the Shaman King of the Moon Domain. Lilith, the ancient goddess Lilith, who once controlled the moon pathway. Such a change was out of Emmeline's expectations, but Sharon, who was good at controlling her emotions and thoughts, wasn't affected. Oh shit, wasn't it revealed that the ancient goddess Lilith had prior control before Evernight? Yeah. Lilith had she was like the ancient she had domain over the moon prior to Lilith. Damn, there's a lot of moons today. Such a change was out of Emily's expectations, but Sharon, who was good at controlling her emotions and thoughts, wasn't affected. Despite having become a Clairman puppet, she raised her right hand and yanked out some of her messy black and white hair. Almost at the same time, on the Shaman King's head, a tuft of white hair fell on its own without him suffering any attacks. The door of summoning he had just opened had been dissolved by the full might of the vision of the white sun's rays. This wasn't because of the Rose Skull of Thought's angels who was being summoned was unable to resist the Grade 1 sealed artifact, but the door of summoning couldn't withstand such a special attack. In addition, the Kings of Curses, Baranka? I can never pronounce his name. Baranka had only... Oh, I forgot to do this up here. Oh, snap. In addition, the King of Curses, Baronica, had only extended two hands. This limited the amount of power that could remotely be projected via his descent. This evil aura that permitted into the real world had also been purified by the vision of the white, preventing it from affecting Sharon and Emmeline. At that moment, without the door summoning, Baranka could only retreat to where he was originally. He had to wait for the next summoning or for the Shaman King Clairman to pray. As for an angel, he had the status required to respond to prayers throughout the world. Oh my god, I cannot read, man. I am not in streamer mode right now. Didn't record? No, wait, we're recording. I just forgot to click stream on OBS. Hold up, I'm trying to get in streamer mode. I'm still like in 9 to 5 mode. When that strand of hair fell, Sharon and her Clairman puppet state didn't hesitate. Her right hand naturally slid down from her forehead. She grabbed the exaggerated crack that had the full blood moon embedded there and forcefully pressed down. Clairman couldn't help but let out a blood-curdling scream. The flesh on his forehead turned into a bizarre blur as they filled up with terrifying crack, blocking the miniature full moon. This was one of the beyond powers of a Sequence 4 puppet of the mutant pathway called the Source of Curses. Apart from being able to influence non-living creatures, puppets could also turn into into mystical puppets and magical paper figures. Through the connections established, they could use various methods to curse their targets. This beyond power would undergo a qualitative change when they reached sequence 3. At the current state, it resulted in mutually destructive damage. Under normal circumstances, puppet demigods rarely use it. In other words, a puppet had to hurt themselves to hurt their enemy. Damn. The reason why Sharon dared to do so was because she was certain that since both she and her target were at sequence 4 as a wraith and a zombie, she would definitely be able to withstand the damage better than the vampire. After knowing in advance that Shaman King Claremont had a grade 1 sealed artifact, General of the Peopleless Eye, Sharon had never thought of truly succeeding with Wraith's possession. Her main goal... Oh, what? That wasn't her main goal? Her main goal was to use this method to establish a connection with Claremont to prepare for the subsequent curse. The source of curses? The tuft of the hair she plucked symbolized the official start of the curse. Destroying the target's full blood moon on his forehead was to prevent him from establishing the door summoning once again, which would lead to pulling a rose skull of Thought's angel into the battlefield. Of course, as a demigod, Claremont wasn't going to die so easily from a curse. In the past, he would be able to use moonlight transformation and illusionary bats to weaken the damage brought by the curse. Then, via constantly moving at high speeds, he could avoid attacks while chanting the honorific name of the Rose Skull of Thought's angel. However, under the silvery white moon's illumination, his body seemed to freeze, preventing him from completing the series of actions. While Claremont's mind raced, General of the Peopleless Eye's puppet on his shoulder stood up and let out an ear-piercing scream. The glass windows around them shattered, transforming into bullets that shot towards the floating Sharon. Without anyone controlling the eyeball-like glass sphere, it flew up on its own, causing a gigantic pillar of light that had flames swirling around it to descend. The pillar of light enveloped Sharon, causing the surroundings to turn bright as though it was daytime. The General of the Peopleless Eye could influence ownerless mystical items, allowing them to help it. Amidst the flaring sun, Sharon, who had transformed into Claremont, showed clear signs of melting as her face controlled uncontrollably. I remember back in Volume 2, I was not able to pick up when Sharon or like would possess or be possessed, vice versa, and they kept attacking each other. I was like, wait, I don't follow. Half the large number of glass fragments melted into the pillar of light, while the other half pierced through her body. Claremont once again let out a tragic cry. It made Emlyn's body turn cold as his blood seemed to frost up. One bloody hole after another appeared on the Shaman King's body. He was like a candle that had been thrown into a furnace as he slowly softened and the oils from his fat dripped. No, the 1 in 4 hours is being moved. No, I know. It's because I missed the stream today. Don't worry about the 1 in 4 hours. I'm gonna move that one. Don't worry. I got you. No, don't worry about that one. Any damage from the source of curses would be reflected onto the target. As a demigod of the Rose Skull of Thought, there was no doubt that Claremont knew of this. His actions just now was to use this exchange of damage to force Sharon to stop the curse. The theoretical spells of the Sun domain clearly dealt more damage to evil creatures that were likely of puppets, wraiths, zombies, and werewolves than vampires, potions, professors. Whoa, so many name drops. The theoretical spells of the Sun domain clearly dealt more damage to evil creatures than were like the puppets, wraiths, zombies, and werewolves than vampires, potions, professors, Scarlet Scholar, and Shaman Kings. That was to say, the continuous flaring sun strikes caused Sharon to dissipate, but it would only be able to severely injure Claremont. As for the demigods of the moon pathway, they had extremely strong self-recovery abilities. In just a second, Shaman King Claremont used his rich experience and deep knowledge of mysticism to accurately grasp the problem of the source of curses, and chose the most suitable method to see the results in the shortest time possible. However, at that moment, having lost the vision of the white, Emlyn White, who had summoned the strange moon, regained his senses. He took out a bronze green, hard-covered notebook and flipped to one of the pages. A crackling sound could be heard as bolts of lightning appeared out of thin air, interweaving into a storm that emitted a strong destructive aura. Instantly, the Shaman King Claremont was swept in. Layman's Travel's thunderstorm. Oh shit. Having temporarily lost moonlight transformation and the ability to blink within a certain range, Claremont was unable to dodge the attack. He was smote by the bolts of silver lightning. Sharon took the opportunity to dispel source of curses to prevent the damage dealt to the target from being reflected onto her. However, her face was clearly much paler than before and her breathing had become weaker. Oh shit. Sharon? Taking damage? What? The pillar of light from blazing sun had indeed caused quite a significant amount of damage to her. The silvery white blob that blasted quickly extinguished, and Claremont's body was already pitched black. His charred skin and flesh were constantly peeling off. Pieces of flesh were squirming and growing. The general of the people's eyes body rapidly turned incorporeal as though it had turned into a spectator. It was prepared to possess Claremont and move him away from the area to prevent any subsequent blows. At this moment, a blonde, red-eyed head suddenly appeared and bit the head of the exquisite doll. Claremont, who remained groggy, subconsciously looked over and saw a headless lady. This lady was wearing a dark and complicated gothic long dress and holding 4 blonde, red eyes, beautiful heads, by the way. Renette Tanker. Yeah, so that's gonna be the original time tomorrow, Kemi. Yeah, so I gotta move the streams. But yeah, that's my next potential stream in 10 hours when I'm awake. In the vast desert, the eyes of Renette Tanker, who was attacking Abomination Sua with a Zik Ariana, and the giant silver serpent suddenly glazed over. Her actions turned stiff as she attacked purely on instinct. This was part of Klein's plan. When the battle on this side had stabilized, with Abomination Sua was able to extract himself from it within a short period of time. Renette Tanker's main body was dispel its concealed state. She would then return to the real world and quickly help Sharon and Emlyn finish the battle. Looking at a tragic-looking mummy projection in midair, and Klein controlled the 3 angels to hold back Abomination Sua. He used their auras to influence the environment around him. He switched from teleportation to flaring jump, and he continued to deal with the Rose School of Thought's Shaman King. During this process, he appeared carefree and relaxed, but in fact, he realized that the affinity between his body and his soul was decreasing bit by bit. His body was gradually becoming a spirit cage, causing his actions to become stiffer and heavier. This reminded him of the core description of Prisoner. I don't remember that one. The body was the cage of the heart, and the world was the cage of the body. As time passed, he understood the meaning of this sentence from another angle. And the world was the cage of the body. Oh, wow. That's pretty deep. After Abomination Sua began to direct his attention at him, even if he didn't have the chance to attack himself directly, he was still able to make him suffer some form of corrosion. After one of Renette Tinker's heads was in control of General, the peopless eyes, another head raised the black staff that it was biting down on it with its teeth. The gem-embedded staff lit up with a misty glow. After a figure quickly took shape. It was none other than German Sparrow, who was wearing a top hat and a trench coat while holding Death Knell Bang. A silver-black stream of light flew out and accurately hit Claremont's body. Claremont's thoughts came to a halt as he froze on the spot. Control Spirit Bullet. This was the Control Spirit Bullet shot by German Sparrow that the Staff of Stars had reenacted. This 062 sealed artifact could allow the beyond powers and people that surface on the minds of the wielder to descend upon reality, while the latter could launch a single attack. On the other side, Sharon immediately turned into a puppet that looked identical to Claremont. She retracted her right hand and ruthlessly stabbed it into her chest. Oh, like this? Blood sprayed out as Claremont gaped his mouth, unable to make a sound. To Rafe, the heart definitely wasn't a vital spot, but to a vampire, it was lethal. Oh shit, we fucking did it. Without giving Claremont any chance to resist, Emlyn flipped through Layman's Travels once again. The fact that fucking he's here, dude. The fact that Emlyn is like helping out Sharon and like the fact that he's participating in this fight is so badass, dude. Emlyn flipped through Layman's Travels once again and released a recording of the historical void summoning and took out the bronze unshuttered crucifix. His fingers pressed down on the spike, allowing the blood to flow out to cleanse the molten cross. A pure burning white sphere instantly condensed. After Sharon removed the source of curses, Emlyn threw out a long spear of light and watched it pierce through Shaman King Claremont's chest. Damn! Pinning him to a high walls on the... What the fuck? And he pins him to the walls of the cathedral? What the fuck? He throws a white spear... And then it like impels him, and he's like up there. Oh shit, dude. Pinning him to the high walls of the cathedral. Bright light suddenly expanded and completely extinguished Claremont's last breath. Unshadowed sphere. Oh shit, dude. And the vast desert Klein suddenly stopped, and while facing Abomination Sua and the Shaman King, oh my god, so fucking cool. He took off his hat, pressed down his hand to his chest, and bowed. Damn. His body faded and disappeared. I got a little tear in my eye. That's fucking cool, dude. During this process, Klein wasn't worried about being disturbed at all. This is because if it wasn't that he was attempting to leave, but that Renette Tinker had dispelled a historical void projection, this also meant that the operation the other battlefield had succeeded. Damn, dude. Oh, that is so fucking hype. Emlyn may act goofy, but he got the best combat record of the Terror Club after Klein. Oh, wait. Spear. I said spear. Spear. Sorry, my bad. Sorry. Old habits die hard. Spear, not sphere. Spear. Oh shit, yeah, you made that goofy, but he has a high body count. Yeah, you're right. Damn, this guy is fucking. What was it? 3 for 3? 4 for 4? No, 3 for 3. Chapter 1100. Whoa, we regress. Chapter 1200. is called. Distribution. As the golden rays of light shone down, Claremonde Shaman King, who lived for more than 1,000 years, collapsed into pieces at the entrance of the Evernight Cathedral. Every part of his body was charred black, completely drained of its blood. Amongst them, something fell out of his black-robed ashes. It was a normal-sized palm. Its skin texture didn't appear human at all, and it had a dim luster. Its fingers were slender with balanced amounts of flesh and blood, with flesh and bone. If he hadn't seen it on such an occasion, Emlyn definitely would have believed that the palm was a part of an exquisite doll. Another head in Renette Tinker's hand swung forward as it quickly bit the palm. At the same time, Sharon's figure turned incorporeal. She entered the remains of the Shaman King Claremont, speeding up the... Oh, she can expel it. Yeah. She's speeding up the expelling of his beyond characteristics. Emlyn composed himself and looked at the door summoning created by Lilith's ring. His body suddenly turned into a hazy moonlight. The crimson moonlight shattered into countless fragments of light. Wait, his body turned into a hazy moonlight? Rest in peace, bozo. You won't definitely not missed and definitely forgotten. His body suddenly turned into a hazy moonlight. The crimson moonlight shattered into countless fragments of light. The bright and devilish red scales swam around the area, enveloping by the moonlight, restructuring beside Claremont's corpse into Emlyn White in his tuxedo and bow tie. Without looking at the beyond characteristics that had seeped out, he dispelled the unshattered crucifix, bent down, and picked up his vision of white that he had previously thrown to the side using the black velvet gove. His other hand shook Layman's Travels as he flipped the book to one of the pages. The symbol and the mysterious patterns on it all belonged to traveling. Emlyn's figure turned transparent as he vanished from the scene. Moonlight transformation ability. Yeah, I forgot we read that last stream. I was like, what is that again? He followed the plan that was the first to leave after the operation ended. He didn't interfere with Sharon and company's cleanup of the scene and their cleaning of traces. After all, he was the weakest one there. He had used a considerable amount of energy in battle while relying on the sealed artifacts and mystical items. As for the spoil wars, they would be distributed once he returned to Backland. In this aspect, Emlyn fully believed in Gurmanspro's promise of the Rose School of Thought's Temperance Department's credit. After teleporting back to an empty house in Backland, he suddenly threw down Layman's Travels. He took out a bronze box with many red gems embedded in it, and he placed the vision of white inside. Only after doing this did Emlyn have the energy to take off the glove on his left hand. He saw that the fingers were filled with blisters swollen. Ew. So he did take damage. With the Sanguine's regenerative abilities, damage at such a level should have long been healed, but in reality, it hadn't improved at all. The burns brought by the vision of white will last at least 7 days. Emlyn took out ointments he had stored in a metal tube and squeezed out some of it to apply it on his wounds. The soul-stabbing pain was immediately eased by the cooling sensation. Emlyn slowly exhaled as though he had finally resurrected. He had used a great deal of willpower to restrain himself from throwing the vision of white onto the ground. This was because once the sealed artifact left his control, it would automatically absorb the light around it and emit a radiant glow. To Sanguine, this would be an excellent way of committing suicide. Right on the heels of that, Emlyn took out a bottle of his blood and he had extracted beforehand and speared it onto the surface of Layman's Travels. Then he drank another bottle of blood to ease the bloodthirst that Lilith's rings brought about. After such an operation, he finally removed the negative effects of the sealed artifacts had on him. Only at this moment did Emlyn have the ability to recall the action that had happened during the battle. The door summoning that he projected with Lilith's rings didn't summon creatures from the deep in the spirit world, but he ended up summoning a strange moon. The moon hung behind the door summoning and silently illuminated Shaman King Claremont, suppressing the various beyond powers that belonged to the moon domain. If not for this change, even if Lilith rings had summoned a saint-level spirit world creature, the battle wouldn't have ended so quickly. Perhaps they would have had to wait until the Rose Skull of Thought Temperance Angel descended to gain an overwhelming advantage. A silvery white moon. Could it be that Ancestor had provided me with some help? That's what I'm thinking, man. Could it be that the Ancestor had provided me with some help? Emlyn had a thought and made a corresponding guess. This matched the identity of the Sanguine Saver the Ancestor had appointed. After careful consideration, Emlyn no longer had any doubts about this guess, but unlike the past, he wasn't that excited or thrilled. After experiencing a battle at the demigod level and confirming that he was shouldering such an important responsibility, he felt no sense of pride. His heart was heavy from the pressure. A few seconds later, Emlyn opened his mouth and whispered, "I'm the savior of the Sanguine." When he said this, his expression was abnormally solemn, somewhat dignified, without any hesitation. In the house where Emlyn met American Sharon, when the Sanguine saw the perfect doll-like lady take out 2 items, he heard her slightly ethereal voice say, "According to the agreement, we will only take one thing. This is the rest." The two items were a fist-sized gem condensed from the thick blood. It emitted a crimson glow like a miniature crimson moon. The other item was an exquisite male doll with two black holes at his eyes. Shaman King's bionic characteristics, general of the pupilless eye. That makes sense. Emlyn nodded and saw that the two items seemed to have a life of their own as they flew over. Just as he reached out to catch it, he heard Miss Sharon add, the Shaman King bionic characteristic has some strange traces of corruption. What the fuck? Even the unshadowed sphere was unable to cleanse it? It means that I need to find an angel to help me shatter it and remove the corruption. Emlyn completely understood what Sharon was saying as he nodded slightly. I understand what to do. Sharon, who was wearing a small black bonnet, immediately floated up and gave a curtsy. Thank you for your help. Likewise, Emlyn took off his hat and bowed in return. Above the grayish-white fog inside the ancient palace, Klein looked at the wisps of black gas emitted from his body, shook his head, and sighed. I actually got cursed by the abomination without real. Oh, you're right. The black gas is corruption. I actually got cursed by the abomination without realizing it. The projection of the chain god could be the culprit as well. I was even separated by the historical projection. If it were any other saints, the werewolf characteristic in volume 2 was corrupted. Of course, the Shaman King will be too. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that was corrupted for so fucking long. Yeah, so it would make sense then for this to be corrupted. You can change back song, by the way. Yeah, we should probably change it. If it were any saint without Sephiric Castle, they would probably experience a sudden death after thinking they were safe. As for Miss Messenger, there wasn't much of a problem, even without the historical projection in between, because she was a real angel. Therefore, Klein wasn't worried. After the black gas dissipated, Klein waited for a while. He waited until Emlyn sacrificed the items and requested Mr. Fool to help purify the Shaman King beyond a characteristic. Strange corruption from the mother tree of desire of the primordial moon. Klein picked up the miniature crimson moon and carefully observed it for a few seconds. During this process, he was on high alert, constantly preparing to mobilize Sephiric Castle's powers. If he wasn't at the level of an angel, over here, he wouldn't have agreed to Emlyn's sacrifice. Instead, he would have chosen to smite down with the power at a sequence 2 level, shattering the characteristic and separating the corruption remotely. Back then, Klein didn't even dare to divine the oh shit, and look, right here it's being brought up again, Cammy. Back then, Klein didn't even dare to divine the werewolf bionic characteristics that had slightly been influenced by the mother tree of desire. He had even hurriedly sold it. He's like, yeah, get it out of here. After examining it seriously, Klein pressed his right hand, causing the entire mysterious space to vibrate. The miniature crimson moon shattered with a crack, splitting into tiny red dots of light. Amongst these lights was a small amount of red mist that evaporated, eventually forming a drop of flesh blood. Then the light dots gathered again, constantly condensing before transforming into a miniature crimson moon. However, compared to before, it was more translucent and pure. Klein conjured a fake hand, picked up the door of seemingly fresh blood, and discovered that it had contained immense vitality. It's not at an angel level, but it's a little strange. It seems to have received an evil god's blessings. As Klein cut off all the invisible connections that resulted from the blood, he took a paper figurine and attempted to press the drop of blood onto it. The moment the blood came into contact with the paper figurine, it immediately seeped in, and the next second, the paper figure's stomach strangely bulged and exploded. At that moment, the paper figurine tore apart. A new paper figurine with a hint of crimson crawled out from its stomach. It seemed to have been fully developed features, the power of reproduction. Klein frowned slightly as he stabbed it with his right hand, reducing the newly born paper figurine into powder. A tiny amount of blood-colored mist emitted again, condensing into a drop of blood. The characteristic and spirituality were only slightly weakened. It needs to be repeated more than 100 times before it can be completely removed. Oh, hell no, pregnant paper. Fucking no one. He's like, smite that shit. The characteristic and spirituality were only, where was it? 100 times? Before it can be completely removed, Klein silently assessed as he gathered the powers of Sephiric Castle to seal the drop of blood. He then looked up and cast his gaze at the male doll on the long model table. The palm-sized doll in the formal suit was prostrating. It didn't dare to look up. Oh, how easy it is to deal with those with the living characteristics. Klein chuckled as he gathered the sealed drop of blood and brought it close towards the doll named General of the Pupilless Eye. General of the Pupilless Eye pushed itself up with all the 4 limbs and quickly retreated. After a pause, it pressed its forehead against the table, emitting a sound indecipherable to humans. Declaring your subservience very good, Klein replied with a smile and casually instructed, show me your abilities. Oh shit, tell me your abilities. After a series of demonstrations, he confirmed that General... Well, the reason he's saying show me is because he had human characteristics, right? So it'd be able to show him. That's why he's saying it. Show me. After a series of demonstrations, he confirmed that General of the People's Eyes could possess a target and inflict lifeless items. It also had some level of control over mystical items that no one possessed or had spirituality. Yeah, okay, thank you. Or had spirituality injected into. The latter powers might be very useful at certain times. Klon nodded slightly and beckoned for it to jump into a box he conjured. After carefully sealing it, Klein threw the box with a drop of blood into the junk pile to let them familiarize themselves with their future lives. As for the negative effects of the General of the People's Eyes, Klein believed that they could discuss and resolve it amicably and normally. Next chapter is called Hypothesis. You guys were talking about this chapter earlier. I remember. I guess something happens. Music change, banger music. I know. So the video isn't monetized and it says blocked in one place. So it's worth it. Chapter 1238 is called Hypothesis. After dealing with the spoils of war and bestowing the purified Shaman King beyond her characteristics to Emlyn White, Klein was in no hurry to leave Sephira Castle. He simply reviewed the battle today. One thing he focused on was Abomination Sua's performance in various aspects, so as to assess how powerful an angel was. If I encounter him head on and do not hold back, I might not even have a chance to summon an angel projection. Unless I succeed on my first attempt, of course, my target, Dark Demonic Wolf, is a Sequence 2 Miracle Invoker. As for Abomination Sua, he is already a Sequence 1. The gap between the two is likely quite significant. However, Dark Demonic Wolf shares the same seer pathway as me. He surpasses me in every aspect. I can only be thankful that he hasn't completed the ritual and advanced to Sequence 1, or I wouldn't have any hopes of winning Sequence 1. As his thoughts raced, Klein's gaze suddenly constricted as he sat straight. He had thought of a possibility in a moment of inspiration. Okay. Could the Dark Demonic Wolf culture have advanced and become a Sequence 1 attendant of mysteries? He created a marionette city to mislead the possible trackers such as Angel of Time Amon. It can be ruled out, yes. There's another possibility. The Dark Demonic Wolf culture is in complete control of that curtain, and he has the strength of a quasi-Sequence 1. The more Klein thought about it, the more he realized that his operation was more dangerous than he had imagined. The Dark Demonic Wolf had survived in the Forsaken Lands of the Gods for so many years. Even a god of trickery like Amon is still unable to capture him. This means that his strength and intelligence has reached a rather high level. I still have to make more preparations for hunting him. Klein frowned slightly as he slowly exhaled. Backland Westboro within the Odora family's villa, Emlyn sat on a leather sofa in the living room, crossed his right legs and placed it on his left thigh, patiently waiting for Baron Cosme to enter. Before long, the middle-aged, sanguine Baron entered the living room and swept his gaze across Emlyn. Viscount White, why are you visiting so late at night? Emlyn smiled and said, Isn't this judged the beginning of a day? Look, the crimson moon outside the window is so beautiful. Cosme wanted to retort the young sanguine, pointing out how Emlyn followed the good practice of waking up at 7 in the morning and sleeping before 11, back when he went to the Harvest Church. After a moment of hesitation, he resisted the urge and said, What's the matter? Emlyn raised his hand to pat the gown, tugging at the bow tie, and slowly got up. He raised his chin slightly and said, Tell Lord Nibs that he can begin preparing for the Earl conferment ritual. Cosme instinctively asked, What are you talking about? Just as he said that, he suddenly came to realization as he recalled Emlyn's previous application. You obtained an Earl, no, a Shaman King's beyond her characteristic. Emlyn enjoyed this very moment as he replied with a smile, Do you think I was just joking when borrowing Vision of White? Yo, he's been wanting to say that, dude. Do you think I was joking, bro? He's like, bruh, I wasn't joking. As he spoke, he took out the bronze box inlaid with many ruby gems. He opened it and revealed the eyeball-shaped glass sphere inside, indicating that he hadn't lost it and was able to return it. Cosme's eyes flicked as he said, The Rose Gold of Thought's temperance faction still has such powerful strength. Then why did they cooperate with you? The upper echelons of the Sanguinian Backland, which was also the grandfather Cosme Marquis Nibs. Odora didn't think highly of Emlyn's previous application. He wanted to wait for the cooperation with the Rose Skull of Thought to fall through before Emlyn had no choice but to seek help from him or their demigods. Emlyn glanced at him and replied with a smile, It's a secret. This was also the tone he learned from Germansbro. He found it cool and thought that it suited his performance. At the same time, this was a key point that the Hanged Man had repeatedly told him during the free exchange of the Terror Club. Only by maintaining a sense of mystery would the upper echelons of the Sanguine experience a certain fear. This prevented them from finding excuses or using their status to take away the Shaman King characteristic. Oh, so there's a chance that they would be able to take it away? Without waiting for Cosme to respond, Emlyn threw the bronze box containing the Vision of White and buttoned up his suit. He walked past the Baron and walked to the door of the living room. As he was about to leave, Emlyn stopped without turning his head. He straightened his back and looked straight ahead. Remember to address me as Oh! You fucking tell him, Emlyn! Remember to address me as Earl next time. Game, what a badass. No wonder he was wearing the suit and tie just for that moment. With the ancestors' blessings and the importance of the moon had placed on him, he was filled with confidence in becoming a Shaman King. Cosme's facial muscles twitched, but he maintained his silence. Only after Emlyn left did he find it difficult to control his warped expression. Dude, Emlyn is so smug right now. You know he's making the best smug face of his life once he walked away. As a Sanguine who had existed since the time of Rizal, he was many years older than Emlyn, but he remained a Baron. He was just slightly better than those without a noble title. As for Emlyn, he was considered a laughing stock amongst the youngest generation of the Backland Sanguine. He was about to cross the border separating mortals and gods. He would become a Sequence 4 Shaman King, a Sanguine Earl. Damn. How could Cosme not lose his composure? How could he not be jealous? How could he not be shocked? After spending a few minutes to control his emotions, he headed down to the basement, passing through the several secret doors, and he arrived at the great hall where Nibs was sleeping. Grandfather, Emlyn's operation had succeeded. Inside of the black iron coffin, there was a brief silence. After 3 or 4 seconds, Nibs finally said, "The faction backing him is beyond our imagination." Yeah, no fucking shit, bro. The Sanguine Marquis's voice was deep and old, with a hint of hoarseness as it echoed to the hall. Grandfather Emlyn succeeded by relying on the Vision of White. A portion of the items he obtained rightfully belonged to the race, Cosme said with some anticipation, feeling somewhat indignant. Nibs' voice grew louder. Buffoon! You fucking buffoon! To be able to hunt the Shaman King while the Rose Skull of Thought was clearly prepared, is that something any faction can do? The Rose Skull of Thought's Temperance faction had been in shambles for years, so how much strength can it have left? At most, they have an angel in a poor condition or a grade 0 sealed artifact, as well as 2 to 3 demigods. All these put together wouldn't be able to restrain Abomination Soul and the Rose Skull of Thought's other angels, other grade 0 sealed artifacts, a sizable number of demigods, as well as a chain god's projection and the blessings of the Mother Chair Desire. Like, you really think we can do that? If Emlyn's operation succeeded, then you can count how many angels and grade 0 sealed artifacts are needed at the very least. This is a power that can match ours. In the future, don't deliberately investigate Emlyn and his other companions, because he's fucking screwed. After shouting a few more times, Nibs coughed twice, clearly struggling. Cosme's face turned pale as he finally calmed down. Then, are you really going to prepare a ritual for him? What else? Nibs returned with a question before sighing. Perhaps after Emlyn took the risk of the Sanguine's future, the ancestor had truly began showing her concern for him. Oh, Foxy! Foxy. Alright. I guess we're looping Dark Dream. Oh, I can't get over this, bro. I hear this bitch in the car sometimes now. When I'm in the mood, I just play this music in the car. All right, here we go. Dark Dream, Fog Sea, La Cha Island. After leaving the future of the safe sea route, Admiral Star's Katlia used her fairy tale magic to arrive at a mountain peak. She recited the passage and jumped into an empty cliff. Open sesame. A path immediately appeared on the cliff as though it was real illusory. It was unknown where it led to. Katlia made use of her prophetic means to make a simple assessment of any danger. Then she stepped onto the path and ventured deep into the cliff. As she walked, her vision cleared up. She saw the sea that appeared clearly like sapphires and a beautiful castle made of pure emeralds. Oh shit, this was Queen Mystic Bernadette's Emerald City. Katlia wasn't unfamiliar with this place. She easily passed the questions and tests of the magical guards and came to the half-open room that provided the best vista in the castle. The tall queen was standing behind the railings, licking the waves that surged forward. For some reason, Katlia's hidden excitement, thrill, and joy suddenly calmed down at that moment as she felt a sense of security and freedom. Back when she cursed the sea, she would occasionally feel lonely and sad, like a leaf that had left its trees. Sorry, I had a burp. Allowing the wind to bring her to different places, now she seems to have fallen back to the ground, right beside the tree. She opened her mouth momentarily, at a loss for words. Let me lower the volume down a bit. At a loss for words, finally she nudged the heavy glasses on her nose and simply greeted, "Good afternoon, Your Majesty." Bernadette turned around and nodded. "I summoned you back to Emerald City because I have some things to hand over to you." Katlia instinctively asked, "What are you handing them over to me?" The Queen had a secret organization like Element... Wait, she has a secret organization? The Queen had a secret organization like Element Doll and a group of pirates under her. Bernadette didn't directly answer Catlia's questions as she said, "I previously received a clue and left Backland in a hurry." "I remember the matter," Catlia interjected. Bernadette's long and straight eyebrows twitched slightly. "Through this clue, I managed to piece together an incomplete sea map." Oh, okay. "I managed to piece together an incomplete sea map from the descendants of Edwards, Williams, and Poley." Bruh. "It records the areas my father had explored in the Fog Sea those years," and that's, he would always look west. So, from the west? "With the help of this sea map and my prophetic abilities, I can roughly guess that a particular area out at sea that is far away from the safe sea routes might be hiding his secrets. I plan on heading there on the dawn to do an extended search. I'm not sure when I can return. Perhaps I will never..." What the fuck? "Perhaps I will never be able to return. Therefore, I have to hand over some items that matters to you in advance." After listening carefully, Catlia said without hesitation, "I'll go with you. It is my father. This is something I have to do alone." Queen Mystic Bernadette slowly shook her head. Catlia fell silent for a few seconds before saying, "If you don't return, I would do the same." What the okay. That is so hype, dude. What the fuck? I forgot to do my outro. We gotta leave, and hopefully we come back in 2 hours, and we can knock out 1 more hour of reading, just because we gotta get some errands done. But hopefully, next fight music, so no need for me to beach. Next is fight music. Okay. Okay, so we're playing that the backland music, you said, once we're sealed vessel, and then fight music. Okay. Go back to regular music when we leave backland. Okay. Thank you, Cammy. All right, I'm gonna let you guys go, and hopefully we come back in 2 hours for 1 more hour, and we can squeeze in 1 more hour during our free time. I'll let you all go. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Loves and kisses, and I'll see you guys all very, very soon.